Hey guys, it's been 4 years around since I've done one of these. Last one I think I did was for like Doctor Strange or Suicide Squad, but this is another episode of The Crazy Lounge, and this is the start of season 3. I am bringing this thing back and everything, and I started it on the first episode of season 3. Will be Marvel Cinematic Universe tier list because I got ideas for because we got a lot of stuff coming out, so like that, and I'm going to talk about stuff that's coming out for Phase 4. So I thought maybe show you my thoughts what I think of the first 3 phases before I start talking about Phase 4, which is an idea that I have, for Phase 4. With WandaVision and some other stuff that are coming out, but I just want to get you updated on a tier list, and this is all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies released down here at the bottom. And I'm going to put it up here on a tier list and give you my thoughts on each movie. And we're going to put them in order, starting with Phase 1. And the first movie that came out for the Marvel Cinematic Universe was, let me find it, Iron Man. Now, Iron Man was a pretty good start to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it was laid the foundation of what to expect from the universe. But it wasn't a perfect movie, but it wasn't a bad. It was by far not a bad movie. It was, for the most part, it laid Robert Downey Jr. as a key player of the whole cinematic universe. Had a pretty okay villain. It laid Pepper Potts down and the concept of the origins of Iron Man and stuff like that. And for what it's worth, it was a decent movie. But I'm going to start it off as a B. A B. All right. Then a month after that, oh, don't ask me what happened there. But a month after that, we had the second movie that came out within a month of each other, and that was The Incredible Hulk right here. And the Incredible Hulk, it was okay. It was not a bad movie. It was an okay movie, but the problem with it is it was kind of boring. The villain was just kind of didn't really show a lot of things about the Hulk, and it's not even the same actor. It was Edward Norton for this movie. Now we got Mark Ruffalo, of course, and so like that. So it was just kind of there. It was kind of the anomaly of it and stuff like that. But I mean, for what it's worth, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. And all kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot better Hulk. Edward Norton, like I said, was the Hulk for this movie, but obviously we got Mark Ruffalo now. But it was just okay, and it was kind of boring, and the villain was just kind of there. So it was, eh. The next movie in Phase 1, let me find it. Iron Man 2. A lot of people say that Iron Man 2 is the worst movie of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And while I not say it is not good, it is definitely not the worst one. And I'll explain why only one's going to go into the D rank, and that's my personal worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. And for that, it's also going on the C rank. A lot of people didn't like it because it was just the plot was kind of thin. It really didn't advance Tony Stark too much. Whiplash was just kind of a meh villain, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people just didn't like it because it was just really watered down and stuff like that. So, but it's not like I said, it's not a good movie. Not that good of a movie, but it's not the worst one. And that's only the worst one's going to go to the D rank. And I only really have, well, I may have 2, but one's definitely going to go in D rank. But we'll see when we get to that point. And yeah, but it's not good, but it's definitely not the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. And I'll explain that when I get to that point. So, and then we have Thor. Thor is B rank. Hold on. Hold on. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Alright. 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 Sorry, Mom was calling me. Anyway, Thor is a good origin story for Thor, how to get him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it was the debut of Loki and Odin, and so I thought, and it was good for what it was. But again, it was just kind of a little bland, boring. But it wasn't bad for what it was. So I thought so. Next movie in the Phase One is Captain America: First Avenger. A rank. Thought it was one of the better movies of Phase One. Origin of Steve Rogers and Captain America was great, and and showing off his powers and showing what he was like with and the villain Red Skull was really cool. And it was also showing like the first things of like those Infinity Stones, which will be playing a factor with the Tesseract and stuff like that. And and then when he wakes up 70 years later and he's in modern times, trying to cope with the modern times and stuff like that. It's a good, really, really good origin story for Captain America. And then we end Phase One with the Avengers, the team up movie. And this is also the debut of Hawkeye. Hold up. Yes. I'm in my room. Yeah. Something like that, yeah. That's right. Yeah, give me a minute, okay? Oh, all right. Sorry, Mom keeps calling me. But we have Phase One with the Avengers, and for team up, like I said, the debut of Hawkeye, the debut of Mark. I think Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is debuted in here. I could be wrong. So I thought, and then of course the villain's Loki, who wants to try to take over Asgard, and so I thought that's going to get an A rank. So for the first Avengers movie, it's pretty good, but We got there's better Avengers movies. There's better movies out there, but for the first one, it was pretty good. It set up the foundation of what to expect for future um, Avengers, Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and that ends Phase 1. Phase 2, we go to Iron Man 3, which is the first one of Iron Man 3. Boom. Iron Man 3, in my opinion, is is the worst Iron Man. Or worst movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It might be one that's down there with it, but Iron Man 3 is definitely the worst. And the reason why is because they played to our expectations about the Mandarin. Mandarin's one of my favorite villains of all time. And when they pulled that cockamamie bullshit with the Mandarin not being the real Mandarin for that movie, it really pissed me off. And the whole movie's just kind of bleh. The villain's just kind of there. I mean, I don't like. I mean, it did set up the little boy as potential future Iron Man, and that's one of the cool parts. And the interactions with Tony Stark and the little boy was pretty cool. But overall, the playing with my expectations with the Mandarin did not sit right with me, and yeah. Next one is Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, there's the other D rank. I don't think it's quite as bad, but this movie was dark. When I mean dark, I mean not in a good way. It was hard to see anything. It was boring. The villains was not memorable. I mean, just the Dark Elves. I can't remember the name of the Dark Elf, the main Dark Elf. I think it's Malekith. And I mean, I know, yeah, it set up another Infinity Stone with the Aether. But movies just, no. It's dark, it's boring, and all kind of stuff. I don't think it's quite as bad as Iron Man 3, but there's just nothing really memorable about the Thor Dark World. But then we get to some of the better ones for Phase 2. The next one is Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and that's going to go up to A rank. Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier. Can't go wrong with that. And yeah, that's a good time. And Captain America having to deal with his best friend being the villain in the movie, and it's setting up more lore between him and Bucky Barnes and other stuff like that. It was overall just a good movie, and that's the first good movie of Phase 2, in my opinion. And this is where it really starts getting a little better. And now we get to, where is it at? Our first S rank, Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a very honestly nice surprise. Guardians of the Galaxy is perhaps one of my favorite movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I read a little bit about them in the comics before the movie came out, but I really didn't know that much about them. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people really didn't know about them either. But the movie had enough jokes, enough action. It was, Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Batista, and Rocket Raccoon and Groot's just awesome. Had enough humor, enough all kinds of stuff. And also added another Infinity Stone with this one. And all kind of stuff. But it was very honestly a very, 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 very nice surprise. Then we get to Avengers Age of Ultron. And honestly, that one's an A rank. Age of Ultron is the second one, and also added Black Widow. Black Widow, I don't think that was her debut, but Black Widow becomes a member of the Avengers. And then, of course, you have to fight Ultron, which was like Jarvis's, the AI Jarvis getting a mind of his own and trying to take over. And this leads to a lot of effects for Phase 3 with just Canonovia and all that kind of stuff. But it was overall a good movie. I don't think it was quite as good as the first Avengers, but it's definitely not B rank. But yeah, definitely it's still A rank, but I don't think it's not quite as good as the first Avengers. But it definitely was up there. And all that kind of stuff. And that ends. Oh, actually, no, we have one more for Phase 2, and that was Ant-Man, which is definitely A rank, which was also another nice surprise. It's not quite S rank, but Paul Rudd as Ant-Man and the heist movie and how he became Ant-Man and just a little tidbits of very nice humor and the shrinking and fighting with fighting on the Thomas the Tank Engine and the trains, and and just enough stuff that made this movie a very surprise hit too. And the villain was pretty cool too. Darren Cross's The Yellow Jacket. That was really cool also. So yeah, and that ends phase 2. Now we're getting to the final phase up to date right now, phase 3. And the first one for that one, Captain America Civil War, S rank. Some people wanted to be, some of the superheroes do not want to be controlled by the government. Some of them think they should be controlled by the government and stuff like that. It causes a civil war, but it was also just a master plan of the villain of the movie, which was Helmut Zemo, and all kind of stuff. It's also the debuts of Black Panther and Spider-Man. Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're both really good. And it causes a lot of divide between a bunch of Avengers, like Captain America on one side, Iron Man on one side, people teaming up with Captain America, people teaming up with Iron Man, stuff like that. And it's just overall a really, 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 really fun movie. And Helmut Zemo is actually a very good villain, despite him just, he's a very good manipulator. That's what I got to say about that. But yeah, that's definitely an S rank. Then we get to Doctor Strange. It's a good movie. It's a nice debut for Doctor Strange. And a lot of the mind-bending, reality-bending effects are really cool. But the two villains, what is his name, Kinesis or something like that, it's just an evil version of Doctor Strange. And then, of course, Dormammu. You don't really see much of him except at the very end where he uses another Infinity Stone, which you might as well get the Time Stone. Now, there's some humor there too with the cloak and stuff like that, and stuff like that. But yeah, for overall, it's a nice little debut for Doctor Strange and all kind of stuff. And he's going to play a bigger part, later in later movies. Then we go to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Not as good as the first one. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie, but it's definitely not as good as the first one. I did not like Ego. Ego plays a big part of the movie, and like Peter Quill's Star Wars backstory, with him being his father and stuff like that. But him being like a embodiment of the living planet and find out some of his backstory is kind of cool. But I just really didn't like him as a villain. A lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you can't go wrong with Baby Groot. But a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy things, people kind of state their personalities, and they also, I believe, add Mantis in this movie. So it's a lot of cool things, but the villain brings it down just a little bit. Then we go to Spider-Man Homecoming. And people know Spider-Man's my favorite villain. Superhero. S rank for Spider-Man Homecoming. First movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tom Holland as Spider-Man is great. The villain is great with Michael Keaton as the Vulture. And that started like little teasing of the Sinister Six. And it was a great movie. Tom Holland's probably the best Spider-Man. I think he's better than Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but that's just me. And this is actually him in high school. All the kids are in high school. And he's not, and he doesn't, and there's no really origin story either. All he has is powers. You don't really see much about his origin story about how he got his powers. He's just Spider-Man already. So that was a welcome change. Then we have Thor Ragnarok. Good movie. A lot of humor. Hulk makes his return in this one. Grandmaster Jeff Goldblum's funny. Valkyrie, I think it's Hela. It's a villain, which is like Thor's sister. It's a pretty good villain. And of course, it causes Ragnarok and the destruction of Asgard. It's a good movie. It does upgrade from Thor to Dark World. And I think it might be even better than the original Thor, but it's not quite good enough to be an A rank, but it's a good movie. So, for what it was, it's good. Then we get to Black Panther. Great movie. Probably one of the best of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Killmonger's such a great villain, and it's just a good redemption story with Black Panther about the death of his father, trying to get his throne, and Killmonger trying to usurp the throne, and him having to cope with his Black Panther powers. There was just a bunch of good. That movie's just incredible. So, Ain't much to say about it and all kind of stuff, but yeah, that's definitely an S rank. Then we get to Avengers Infinity War. Yes, I know that's probably not, probably a little surprising that I'm putting it as S rank, but it's basically just a setup to the end game, which I'll go ahead, but yeah. But finally get to see Thanos as the villain, all of them trying to stop Thanos from getting all the Infinity Stones, and of course, what happens in the movie with the blip and the destruction of the wiping out of the half the existence and stuff like that. And so it's still an exceptional movie, but it's not quite S rank only because of what comes up next. But Thanos plays his part exceptionally well, and then you get to see what the uh, what the effects are of the destruction of half the universe. Well, the half the universe is destroyed and wiped out in this movie, but and you get to see the people's reactions as it happens and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and we got Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's okay. Not nearly as good as the first one, only because I don't remember the villains. I mean, I know one of the villains is Ghost, but it's still a good movie. It's still got the bunch of the humor and stuff like that, but it's just not as memorable as the first one. That's really the only reason why. And at the end of the movie, it sets up what happens with Ant-Man in the next movie. In the movie, then we got Captain Marvel. It's boring. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just boring. Captain Marvel movie is just boring. I mean, I know they need to set her up with an origin story, but there's just not much to it. And her with the Krees and the Skrulls and stuff like that, it's really just not much to it. So it's boring. Then we got the big boy, and that's why I said Avengers Infinity War ain't quite S rank because of Endgame. Setting up everything that needs to do with Endgame and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, what else to be said about Endgame? That's all been said when they go back in time and try to get the Infinity Stones to stop Thanos and Iron Man's death and Captain America getting old and passing the shield. And there's just a bunch of stuff going on in that movie. And that's just a perfect way to end Phase 3, except for Spider-Man Far From Home, which is also an S rank. I love Mysterio as my favorite Spider-Man villain, and that is the perfect way to end the season of Phase 3, because now it takes place after everybody gets revived from the blip and stuff like that. So it's like 5 years later. Spider-Man's identity gets revealed. The Mysterio thing's really cool. Just a bunch of really cool stuff about it. And it ends up Phase 3, which brings up Phase 4, which a bunch of these characters now are getting their own little things about what happens after Endgame and all kind of stuff. And the reason why I'm going to doing this is because the next movie thing I'm going to talk about, or for Marvel-wise, is going to be WandaVision, which is the start of Phase 4. So this is my Marvel tier list. You may agree with me. A lot of you may disagree with me, but this is mine. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. And this has been the first episode of Season 3 of The Crazy Lounge. Next time, I got a lot more ideas in my head for Season 3. Season 3 is going to be coming at full force. Going to do these once every week, once every other week or something like that. But we'll see as things pop up. But I got a lot of ideas in my head. So we'll just see what's going on. And y'all have